Hello, everybody. Hi, welcome. My name is Dr. Cheryl Meyer. Today we're going to talk about forgiveness, real forgiveness. I'm a psychologist in my day job. This is my day job. I'm taking this hour out. I want to give back every week to you guys so that you're equipped, because I don't want you to be without this, all right? And so forgiveness is a very important topic, real forgiveness. Because we're called to forgive people. This will actually free your life, and no matter what. So I say I welcome all religions, and I do. So if you're of the non-dual nature of understanding yourself as consciousness, then you'll get a lot of the things that I'm talking about anyway. This will equip you. And I grew up Christian, and I follow that, and I understand Christ to have always been teaching a lot of the similar things. I'm not saying they're all exactly the same, but I was reading. So the quotes I have today, I have from let's start with Gandalf, right? From Tolkien. Actually, that's great, because I was reading in C.S. Lewis's book. I opened the chapter on forgiveness, and I think I had it marked so that I would go back to that, because I knew that's what I was going to be talking about this week. So let's start with this quote from Lord of the Rings, right? Now Gandalf, after he had died, well, he went down with the Balrog into the abyss, and anyway, I won't go into all of what happened to him, or all of what it means, or all of what it can teach us. But I want to have this short quote. I'm quoting J.R. Tolkien. When he was later rescued from, I think this is when he was rescued from Saruman, when Saruman had him. The eagle took him, right? And this has to do with forgiveness. This has to do with your life. This has to do with everything important in your life. If you don't get these truths, I was going to start with that. Meister Eckhart quote. But this book says I'm not allowed to quote from it. But I can summarize what I learned from it. Is he said in general, because Meister Eckhart wrote in the 1200s, I think. He said, truth is so important that if you held on to truth and you forgot about God, he said you could forget about God, because truth in its very nature is the essence of what God is. God is love, God is truth. And so if you actually had real truth, you would be describing God. All right, so we learned, and I went to a Bible college, right? And we learned all truth is God's truth. And it is true, it's true, okay? And so this truth is so essential and so important for your life, but I can't talk you into that. So if you're not interested in this, then move along, like Star Wars quote, right? I just dressed as Princess Leia yesterday for a costume party that we were having. It was so funny. I was roller skating as Princess Leia. But, so move along. But if you're here, then this is a movement. We are part of the leaders that are about to emerge in this world, and I am helping to equip you. And you know, I don't want my words to be misconstrued. This is not Dumbledore's army. Like, oh, look at how that was misconstrued in that book, if you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so I appreciate it. If you're here, give this likes and hearts and thumbs up, and share this with other people who are like-minded, who come to your mind while I'm teaching you guys these things. Because the more people that are equipped with this, the more our whole world changes. I was thinking that the other night, is like, if you are in truth, if other people are in error, right? We can't change other people. We always want to do this and point the finger out. But this is where we have the most power. Where we have 4/5 more power. And this is not even power to change this person here. Jesus said that in the way when he said, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly how to remove the speck out of your brothers. And so what we see so large, looming in other people, turn this around. And if, just take that to its logical conclusion, if everybody in this world did a self-inventory every night and they were surrendered all of whatever was unloving up to a divine love, up to divine truth, asked, show me truth in my life, reveal truth, help me forgive, help me let go, then the whole world would change, because everyone would take self-responsibility. And so we change the world. We are changing the world. Don't believe in your outer eyes. We are changing the world by doing this inner work. You really are. And so it's important what you're doing here. And so I appreciate it if you share this with other people. Okay, so Gandalf, light as a feather. It says, ever I am fated to be your... Gandalf is saying this to the eagle. Ever I am fated to be your burden, friend. At need, I said. Quote, a burden you have been, he answered, but not so now. Light as a swan's feather in my claw you are. The sun shines through you. Indeed, I do not think you need me any more. Were I to let you fall, you would float upon the wind. And Gandalf says back, do not let me fall, I gasped, for I felt life in me again. Bear me to Lothlorien, right? And so I forgot that he went to Lothlorien. That's a big sentence right there. All right, so understand, if God is light, God is love, and I'm not saying these in any new age ways, okay? You can follow your own path for that. I don't recommend. Anyway, I won't get into the... If God is light, right? Like it says in John chapter 1, right? In the beginning. The Logos, and he's the light of the world, and that light is the light that lighteth all men and women. If God is light, and God is love, and God is truth, then the more you are entered into truth and love and lightness of being, then the more you are like God, the more you experience God. You attract to yourself what you are like. And so, here, I'm going to read this Meister Eckhart quote, not from this book, from the internet. I have it. It says, there's no need to look for God here or there. He is no farther away than the door of your own heart, right? I always wear this. Drop down from your head into your heart. There he stands waiting until he finds you ready to open the door and let him enter. No need for you to call him from afar. He is waiting more impatiently than you for that door to open. He wants you 1,000 times more urgently than you want him. There's only one thing you must do. Open the door and enter. No one has ever longed so much for anything as God longs to bring mankind, to him. God is beyond him, but we're just going to use this for this. God is so close to us, but we are distant and turned away from him. God is within, we are without. God is at home with us, but we are strangers to ourselves. Now, understand egotism. What egotism always wants to do is point the finger out because it feels important in the moment, all right? And I was just reading this Meister Eckhart quote, and he said, never is there more valor. I think that was in him. Than that a man or woman forgets or denies himself. And this doesn't mean I'm all humiliated and I forget who I am and I let everyone gaslight me. No, this whole video is about guarding yourself from narcissists, because the whole narcissistic way and narcissistic abuse and is the way that we've been programmed in the world. There are companies and entities and people and so many things that are run by this narcissistic way. And so people make all these videos about how to get over pleasing the narcissist. Well, this is so important. in our whole system, in the system of operating. The system is breaking down in a lot of ways, and the system of operating is to keep catering to the narcissist, which is like a sociopath. And so there are narcissistic traits that we have within us. Now, it doesn't mean gaslight yourself to narcissists and say that they're all good. Neither do you say your own self is all good. But understand, if you learn to forgive, then you're not in egotism. Egotism always wants to see the enemy out there, and it feels like I am self-righteous. And so when we hold grudges against ourselves or against other people or against God, we can be mad at God about stuff. Then it keeps us heavy. It keeps us in heaviness. It keeps us from experiencing this lightness that is God, the goodness, the beingness, the loveliness, the beauty of God, because God is love, and God is not only light, like shining light, but lightness of being brings us to a higher state of consciousness. All right. And so this is why I'm going to quote from C.S. Lewis, because this was a public broadcast, and so I think it's free copyright, so I'll do it right here on these videos where I'm not making any money yet anyway. He says, he said, this is the most unpopular. He's more unpopular than his talking about chastity is forgiving people, right? He says, but I didn't make up Christianity. I am telling you what Christianity is. I did not invent it. And there, right in the middle of it, is, I find, forgive us our sins. This is how Jesus taught us to pray. Jesus is always teaching highest consciousness. So this is how you can get into highest consciousness. And why get in highest consciousness? Because God is highest consciousness. So the higher you raise in your consciousness, the more you understand what God is. The more you are in it. You're in the essence of God. You know, people that are far from the truth and lost in their sin and lost in their addictions are lost in egotism, lost in your mind-made personality self, your contrived perspective of yourself. I have it written down here. Your identity. When you separation consciousness is when you arrive your identity from your sense of self, from your mind, right? Okay, so get this on all levels. Watch this a number of times if you need to watch this over and over. Ask questions, I'll answer. Right now, I'm in a place to answer them. Or other people will, but I don't know what their answers will be. But in the future, check the comments if I have commented. All right, so he says, if I find, quote, forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us. Sin is to miss the mark of perfect love. So people are going to sin against us. They don't know how to be perfect. We are going to sin against other people. It's important we learn how to truly forgive. He said, there's no slightest suggestion that we are offered forgiveness on any other terms. Jesus says, if you do not forgive, you will not be forgiven. Because how can you, if all of heaven is about coming into the presence of God, right? Then your soul is being purified. This is what saved is, right? And so how can you come into the presence of God? Even in this moment, you can say, God, and mean it, if you mean it sincerely, forgive me everything and help me forgive. I give you all of the debts of everybody else who's ever wronged me. In that moment, yes, you are ready to be in the presence of God. But this is also a process that's happening in you as you keep learning how to forgive and choosing of your will. It's not easy to forgive. I tell you, to truly live these things out in your life. You've never lived them if you don't know how difficult this is. Now, some people are more amiable and knew how to do this and had more generous parents, let's say, or taught them, equipped them with how to do this readily because they have that skill built up in them. Now, if you're on Instagram or any of my other platforms, then this is going to go, I'm going to go a few more minutes on YouTube. And so I welcome you to join me on YouTube. And then I'm going to go to the paid portion because, you know, I value my time and I value this work. And I have over 1,000 videos, I think 1,000 now on YouTube for free. So you can watch those and learn from all of those because I have given enough for free. I don't know enough. I just do what God tells me to do. And so for right now, you know, I'm going to respect and earn my living this way too. So you're welcome to buy the rest but I'm going to have 5 more minutes here on YouTube. So there's no slightest. It says, it's made perfectly clear that if we do not forgive, we shall not be forgiven. There are no 2 ways about it. So what are we to do? And so he talks about, it's going to be hard enough anyway, but I think there are 2 things we can do to make it easier. When you start mathematics, you don't begin with calculus, you begin with simple addition. So he's saying start with yourself, start with the people in your house, right? Like your children. Like I love my kids. So I work on forgiving them. And forgive is I learned it psychologically from a Jewish man, to give love beforehand. All right. Now I learned it from Christ. That's what he did, right? And so here's the cross. And so we are returning to this oneness from which we came. God always wants to bring us back to this oneness. And so Christ offered himself as a payment for all of the wrongs people have done. So I can take their debts and say, God, I have these debts, these wrong things that are truly wrong that these people did against me, or I perceive them as wrong, and there are wrong things that they did. And so I give them up to you, and they're your debts now. This is what I was coming up with. And I'm not trying to create a new theology. I'm just explaining my understanding as a psychologist and as a personal person who works on forgiving people, how I can give this to God so I'm not weighed down, so I can be like Gandalf, light as a feather, right? And so he says, secondly, C.S. we might try to understand exactly what loving our neighbor as yourself means, because we're called love your neighbor as yourself, and that means your enemies too, your so-called enemies. They look like enemies to you because they're harming you, and harm is painful. And so anyway, and so now when I come to think of it, I've not exactly got a feeling of fondness or affection for myself, because he's talking about as yourself. And so love your neighbor does not mean feel fond of him or her, find him attractive. I ought to have, that's like gaslighting yourself into saying, oh, but they did all these nice things. You can love them because God created them, and because God calls you to love them and to forgive them. And so I want to show this picture before I go into more of C.S. Lewis and all these other things. What God was showing me. So this is my symbol for God, right up here. And if Christ is like a bridge here, Christ brings us back. Adam and Eve, from turning away from God, from not choosing God. Let's say, even if you believe in duality and stuff, from choosing duality, they walked away from the oneness. And so Christ has a way to bring us back to the oneness in a righteous way, in a real way, instead of just pretending we're back in oneness. I think that's where part of the gap is, okay? And so I'll show you this picture that was coming to my mind, and I meditate every day. And so in my meditation, it's just this easy picture, right? And so it's like, here are all these wrongs that other people do to me in my understanding. Here's how far we are from God at times, right? Christ is this bridge. And so if I can, instead of being lost in this pettiness, if God has forgiven me all of this, then I can forgive my neighbors these little things, even though they seem like this giant thing, because they're really painful to experience. And so but unless I know myself as forgiven, how do I have that to give to other people? And so you can ask God. In James it says, James was a brother of Christ, if you understand. Anyway, sometimes cousins were called like in that category. And he wrote, you have not because you ask not. And when you ask amiss, because you want to spend it on like, God, you know, give me this axe so I can take vengeance on someone, you know. But if you ask God, help me to see you. Help me to see myself as you see me. Help me to see other people as you see them. Help me to forgive. Help me to experience your forgiveness, so I have this love to give to other people. And even when I don't have that love, let me practice walking in truth, walking in lightness of being. All right, so I'm going to go on to the paid portion of this, and I invite you to go there, because this is going to be a deep teaching. I know this. I just know from the other teachings too that are over there. All right, so I'll put the links in the description and all of that. I appreciate so much your company. Share this, watch this over and over. There's gold in this. There's gold. All right, I wish you much love. See you on the other side. Thank you. Appreciate it.